evening and a very warm welcome to both our distinguished speakers today and to the viewers of the BSCD organized by Bombay Stock Exchange in collaboration with ARC Legal. Today's talk is centered on the discussion of securing a digital nation, a new cyber policy. The onset of the pandemic last year resulted in heavier dependence on technology, coupled with a deeper adoption of interconnected devices and hybrid work environments. This rendered us more digitally vulnerable than ever before. Cyber attacks now have the potential to jeopardize national security. So, to better understand the efforts being made to secure a digital India, we have with us today the National Cybersecurity Coordinator in the National Security Council Secretariat of India, Lieutenant General Dr. Rajesh Pant. Under his stewardship, the nation has risen from 47th to 10th position in the Global Cybersecurity Index of 2020, according to the United Nations. Formerly, Dr. Pant was the head of the Army's cyber training establishment. A very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
To complete the conversation, we have with us Ms. Khushbu Jain, a practicing advocate before the Supreme Court of India and the founding partner of ARC Legal. Ms. Jain has been helping in capacity building within various governmental and international institutions in cybercrime investigations. She has also been contributing to the Maharashtra Cyber and Bombay Management Association in an advisory role. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am, as well. So, without taking any more time, I would like to invite you to begin the discussion. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Vaibhavi. As you rightly said, the security aspect, to start with, see, across globe, governments are putting national security considerations at a center stage of their regulatory interventions. Now, these regulations cover domains that in recent years have included non-traditional security concerns. Now, in the area of investments, for example, many countries have modified their rules, 2.5 decades since the establishment of global trade under the aegis of World Trade Organization. Globally, if you look at the number, foreign trade investments worth more than $150 USD billion have either been blocked or withdrawn from national security for the national security reasons in the period of 16 to 2019. Now, this very reason can also be visible from the aspect where President of United States prohibited the proposed takeover of chipmaker Qualcomm by a Singapore-based Broadcom company for nothing but national security reasons. Now, these sovereign nations are equipped with wide powers to deal with, what they define as challenges to their national security. This allows the government to respond to different threats that may evolve or emerge from time to time. Now, the strategy that is aimed at addressing these concerns must be underpinned by a concrete understanding of what comprises national security to begin with. And the release of National Cybersecurity Policy 2013 is an important step towards securing the cyberspace of our country. What are your views, Dr. Pant, on the same?
Thank you, Khushbu, and greetings of the day to all the listeners of this program. Thanks to ARC Legal, BSc. Khushbu has given a very good foundation of the importance of cyber in the national security paradigm. And as far as the policy is concerned, let me share with you, we were one of the first few nations, if you recall, to come out with the National Cybersecurity Policy in 2013. It is an excellent policy. It still holds. And immediately in the next year, in 2014, we came out with a framework to implement this cybersecurity policy. That was also approved by the cabinet. And all that you see today on ground is by and large a result of that policy. So it covers, the main objectives were there, the key result areas were there. And what you see on ground today is the National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center, those two raisings under 70A and B. And certain, of course, was the only establishment actually there in 2013. The rest of them came later on. The crime was also mentioned, not in the form as what it is today, but the Indian Cyber Crime Coordination Center, or I4C as it is called under the MHA, in a sense is an offshoot of that policy. And then, of course, we tackle the National Cyber Coordination Center, the NCCC for threat prediction, which was a very ambitious program, almost 700 plus crores to be implemented within 1 year. And then even cyber diplomacy was discussed in that policy. So the policy, at that point of time, catered for everything. What has happened, unfortunately, is that things have moved on, and you know that how things are different today, and that is where we are now talking of a new strategy. But the 2013 policy, I think, was an excellent policy, which MIT and the other interministerial groups laid at that point of time. Thank you.
Absolutely. I mean, we were, I think, very well said that we were one of the first few nations to come up with such a policy. And yes, things have changed. There has been a change in the entire paradigm, whereas today's world is concerned. The recent attacks, we have seen that how cyber warfare is taking a center stage, whereas geopolitics is concerned, the way critical infrastructures are attacked by state and non-state actors for benefits I mean, the recent Russia and Ukraine thing has been evident over there. There have been also talks about attack, whereas our critical infrastructures were concerned, and in light of same, I think our certain was established, and National Critical Infrastructure Committee was NCIPPC was being formulated. I think recently even Pakistan came up with a national cybersecurity policy of 2021. To show that how important this has become. I mean, I'm talking about the recent neighbors of ours. So to understand that how important it is. Now to put in throw more light, whereas protection and resilience of our national critical infrastructure is concerned, I would want to have your views that how important it is. I understand that it's not just our national critical infrastructure, but also the private infrastructures, including corporates. But to have a policy which talks about national critical infrastructure of the country, and at the same time a policy which also talks about securing the corporate world, securing the entire base of India. When we talk about moving towards digital India, when our vision, India's vision today is getting completely digital, what are your views?
Am I audible, please, Khushbu?
Yes, sir.
So I missed your last sentence, please.
See, there have been rise in malicious use of ICTs in cyberspace, affecting integrity and civil rights of protectionist guaranteed by the state. There has to be a level playing field, transparency, socio-economic equilibrium by posing security and financial risk to the whole spectrum of users, including individuals, businesses, sectors, and states, that could potentially, create a level playing field, and also in achieving a development goals in various economic sectors. So my question comes is, what are your views when we talk about securing critical infrastructure, at the same time a policy which talks about an environment which brings in security for our private sectors as well, especially when we talk about getting into the phase of digital India?
Yeah, you said a lot of things in one sentence, but that's a very important question that you raised. Um, uh, Firstly, the Digital India program has completely transformed our national cyberspace. And then we had the experience of COVID, where, as you know, the number of attacks have gone up by 500%, and cybercrime has become important. But coming back to your question about how to deal at a national level with all the different players that are there, that is what the new strategy that we have been working on for the last 2 years is all about. And in fact, the vision of the strategy and the three pillars on which it is based was put out in the public domain some time back, and that is where we got the views of people as to how do we create a safe, secure, resilient, vibrant cyberspace for prosperity of the nation. And we had the three pillars also. So the concept in the new strategy is that we tackle the entire cyber ecosystem. So all the things that you mentioned, including the private sector, including the legal aspect, including the education and awareness, the audit part, etc., everything is being tackled in the new cybersecurity strategy, which, as I've been saying, is lying in the cabinet for approval. And the concept in that is a whole of nation approach. There is no doubt about it that everyone, the individual, the business, the academia, and the government all have to chip in to ensure that the national cyberspace remains safe and secure. And we have a concept which is called the CBDR, a common but differentiated responsibility, where each of us has a different role. So the individual has a certain role. And why the individual is important is because if you see how the cyber attacks take place, he has to send one phishing email to, let's say, somebody in the government, which is part of the NICNet or something. And out of 100, if one person falls for it and clicks on that link and the malware is dropped and the C2 communication is established, then from there he spreads to the other areas of that particular government establishment, and the escalation of privileges takes place till he gets the admin rights, and then he has the power to do what he wants in terms of either weaponizing it in a different manner or extracting the data, etc. So that one person who falls for it initially is very important, even from the government point of view. So then again, the small and medium enterprises probably do not have the wherewithal to protect themselves. And they are all part of the critical infrastructure, whether it's energy companies, whether it is telcos, etc. So we can't expect them to protect themselves against state-backed or state-sponsored cyber attacks, because those are the ones that come with a lot of heavy lifting and resources, etc., and a lot of persistence is there. So again, to protect these SMEs and the private sector and the individuals, the government has to ensure that it is doing its bit at the gateways, at the various telecom networks, etc., to ensure that the major part of the malware gets stopped. And it's only things like phishing, and if you really fall for a trap or a honey trap, etc., that happens. So this is what the new strategy is all about. And the difference between the 2013 and the new strategy is basically the action plan. You see, 2013 policy, I said, is an excellent document. But where it lacked was it did not have an action plan. It did not, for example, it said that we will train or we'll create a workforce of 5 lakh people in the next 5 years. Even the NCCC project, that 700 crore project that I mentioned, was to come up in 1 year. From 2014, it was to come up in 1 year. And today in 22, we are still in phase 1 has been completed. We are going to phase 2, etc. So in the new strategy, we have given a separate document where it says that whatever deliverable we have asked for, who will implement it, how much will it cost, and what is the time frame in which he has to complete it. So it's a very clear roadmap that has been given. So that is the main difference between the new strategy that I am talking of and the existing 2013 policy. I think I'll take a break there.
Absolutely. I mean, to sum up, yes, humans are the weakest links, whereas cybersecurity is concerned. And since when you're talking about that data is more important, when we talk about phishing, when we talk about attacks, when humans are the weakest link, it's because the information that is available about individuals, which makes it more easy for cyber criminals to practically put you or create social engineering, create those kind of loops to for the humans to fall. And since the data is treated as one of the economic asset of the country, it faces threats and risk like any other assets. And to mitigate this vulnerabilities, a comprehensive cybersecurity is a baseline mechanism to address the following risk that are being faced globally by the countries. Now, one important aspect that comes over here is the ownership. Information being the fundamental pillar of knowledge-based economies. Hence, it is a national asset. Its management, governance, regulations must be synchronized at a national level using all kind of available resources to secure it, and time sensitive is the key over here to have this valuable asset being secured. Therefore, a cybersecurity requires administrative support due to its sensitive nature. Now, when you were talking about the challenges, when we talk about that, yes, we did had a 2013 policy. What lacked was the implementation part. What lacked was the complete roadmap. So when I talk about governance and implementation challenges of cybersecurity policy and strategy, what comes in your mind?
So, you will recall in your introduction, you said that we have jumped as a nation from 47th place to the 10th place in the Global Cybersecurity Index. Now, how did that happen? And one of the reasons, the first thing that is asked in those 153 questions that is there it's a United Nations report, by the way, conducted by the ITU, the International Telecom Union. And it's an iterative process where, as I said, those 150 plus questions have to be answered and you have to give proof. You have to give the link by which this was implemented at a national level. And then they ask you that this link is not enough, send us something else, etc. Now, why I'm saying all this is because the first question there is that does the nation have a national cybersecurity strategy? And the second question is what is the governance structure to implement this strategy? So these two things that you've asked are extremely important, which is why we have gone in for this new cybersecurity strategy. Fortunately, the draft had been circulated to all the stakeholders, so they were aware that yes, we are making a new strategy. As far as the governance was concerned, also we have been speaking in open forums and we sought the views of everyone. And there was a report of 2019, high-level committee report, in which Secretary DOT was a member, Secretary MIT was a member, my predecessor was a member, and Secretary in the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting was a member. And they have said that in their recommendation that there should be a digital security agency created at the apex level. So everyone today in the nation is talking of an apex sort of a body which has the responsibility for the safety of the national cyberspace. And why they are talking like this is because when you see all around us, you see in Singapore, there's a cybersecurity agency which comes under the Prime Minister's office. In Israel, there's a Israel National Cyber Directorate, INCD, under their PMO. Similarly, there's an agency in Japan. There's an agency in Australia. In UK, they have a National Cybersecurity Center. USA has CISA. So all major countries around the world have consolidated their resources at a national level and created an apex sort of a body, which, as I said, is accountable and responsible, and that handles all the aspects of whether it's education and awareness and standard setting, etc. Whereas today, as it stands today in our country, we have these different verticals. So education and awareness, let's say, is under an ISA program of MIT. Crime is under the Ministry of Home Affairs. Cyber diplomacy, of course, is under MEA. Then my office is there, and we have some external facing agencies under, let's say, NTRO and some agencies. We have internal facing agencies, Defense Cyber Agency is there, and then financial aspects are being looked after by someone under the RBI. So they are working in silos, and this is where coming back to the new strategy, this is what the new strategy will be addressing as to how can we all move together in a common path. Because let's take the example of threat intelligence. Now, threat intelligence is the most important aspect to protect yourself. You must know what are the malwares available, what are the indicators of compromise, which you'll be feeding to your systems, etc. Now, if everyone is taking its threat intelligence from different sources, then that is not a good solution. The better solution is that you take it centrally, take it from the best sources from around the world and your own country, and then distribute it nationwide. So that is the sort of architecture that we are going to implement at a national level and create these, national threat intelligence exchange. There's a national malware repository, which you'll soon hear about, that we are going to launch. We've already got about 100 million malware samples in that. So a lot of these predictive methods are going to come about and be implemented at the national level. So the governance part is, as you said, going to be implemented as and when the strategy gets approved. You'll hear of it, that there is a structure that we have in mind for the governance at the national level. Thank you.
Absolutely. And when you talk about a holistic cybersecurity policy, so in order to achieve the defined objectives and effective implementation of cybersecurity policy, it is very much imperative to introduce, appropriate, effective-based framework for cyber governance. That's the key. And there has to be, there has always been, there has been consultations with stakeholders, such as, formulation of cybersecurity plan and what would be the cybersecurity related laws, regulations, and rules, whereas national cybersecurity framework is concerned, compliance, screening, accreditation, risk management regulations for critical infrastructure, public-private partnership, to name a few things. Also, there has been a standardization of digital and network forensic processes that is the key, whereas infrastructure for cyber governance is concerned in harmonizing with the cybersecurity policy that we're talking about. Nonetheless, initially when you're talking about implementation part and when we're talking about information is the key and how security plays, another thing that comes in mind is the pending data protection law that is there. Because see, till date, let's not forget, apart from critical infrastructure for which regulations for which the policy came up and system was in place, when we talk about private sectors were yet not looking, whereas security aspect is concerned, that did not become so important as compared to other nations, as GDPR was been introduced in European nations, where due to penalties imposed, due to the kind of restrictions that came in place, by not complying with the GDPR regulation, you will attract penalties. Nonetheless, after the attack, if things have happened because of your fault, these kind of regulations is what we were waiting for. And I think national data protection policy is what we are looking ahead. What are your views when we talk about that? Isn't it a high time for India to get into a phase where we have a proper dedicated privacy commissioner, at the same time a policy in place, a privacy policy in place for all the private entities, for public entities to abide with security aspects, so that this information is curtailed, is taken care of, whereas Indian citizens are concerned.
Yeah, Khushbu, that's a very important issue. And, we've been following this right since the time Justice Sri Krishna created his report, and we had the PTB bill discussions. And then the report of the non-personal data came in. And then we felt that why have two bills, one for data protection, because there was some overlap between the two. And then they cut out some articles from that and mixed it up and created one DP bill, which has been discussed. So we are hoping that, in the monsoon session, this goes through. The government and the ministers in charge have been speaking about it. But this is a very important issue. It's not the high time. It's beyond the high time that, we have reached. And I feel that as a nation, we need to realize the importance of data, how much the nation is losing, how much individuals are losing, and maybe the loss of all that has been taken away we'll come to know after some time. But this needs to be implemented at the earliest. We are all aware of how effective the GDPR is, how effective the US laws are, whether it is the California law and the New York law and their sectoral laws, etc., and how Facebook paid $5.5 billion on the case where the 81 million leaks had taken place. So the nation is losing money. At a state level, we are losing money. The individuals are losing money. May not be today, but tomorrow, because that's how it happens. But this needs to come at the earliest. I totally agree with you, and I'm sure the officials in charge are aware of this. Fortunately or unfortunately, this year's session is over, the parliament session. But I'm very hopeful that at least in the monsoon session, this bill should be going through. But I totally agree with you on the importance of data. But you're aware as to what are the headwinds that we've been facing on the cross-border data flow, etc. There have been many discussions on that. What stays here, what goes out. But by and large, let me also tell you that the India solution that comes out, and this is my small experience that I have, that we may come out with a solution which may look a bit delayed, but the solution that comes out is a very well thought out solution, and it is an Indian solution. It is implementable in India. So that is where I am very confident that with whatever people who have been outside the government, experts like you who have given their opinion and helped in formulating whatever stage it is in, eventually when it comes out, it will be a very good bill. That is what I'm hoping. Thank you.
I absolutely agree with you. There is no second thought that yes, I mean, we cannot just implement something which is existing in some other country, because I mean, if you look at India, the kind of population, the kind of data we generate, the kind of ecosystem we has is very different, and we have to look into everything. When at this stage we are coming up with a law, we do have right to privacy in place, but to have a policy or have a dedicated law, we have to look into every aspect and come with one holistic law, which doesn't get doesn't get challenged instantly in the courts. So yes, it's taking little time, and yes, it's past high time. So to close or to have your opinion, I mean, there are challenges which are being faced where a security aspect is concerned. So let's hope that the policy which has been we're looking out for will serve as a foundation or for the construction of a holistic digital ecosystem with supporting frameworks and components for the delivery of secure, reliable, and standardized digital services, applications, and digital infrastructure. I hope that this policy will and definitely will drive a fundamental demand in the local IT industry to ensure quality delivery of its products and services. We are talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat. So let's hope that yes, it will bring in our local digital system, or it will pave way for local digital system. Also, this will provide an opportunity for local entrepreneurs along with international entrepreneurs and firms to bring in core competencies in services and solutions and offer an opportunity to local industries to compete and prosper, whereas on an international level, because when we have security in place, when we have a proper secure infrastructure in place, our local businesses are incorporating security and in their design, we come in par, whereas international platform is concerned. So just need a closing remark from your end. We are already past time, sir.
No, absolutely. I am very hopeful and positive on this aspect that things definitely will be sorted out. And as and when the strategy comes out, all the aspects that you mentioned are being addressed. The Cyber Act, the forensics, the PPP, the data protection. There are about 80 deliverables that we are talking of in the strategy. So every aspect of the cyber system is being addressed in that. And I can assure you that everything will be fine, and we have a very bright future to look up to. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Hello. So just to conclude today's talk, thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am, for being here. It was a wonderful learning experience. So from what I have learned, India was one of the very first few nations to come out with a national cybersecurity policy in 2013. Moreover, we also came out with a framework to implement that policy in 2014. And while that policy was extremely comprehensive for its time, technology has evolved past that policy, and so that policy must evolve too, which is why we were discussing the new cybersecurity policy. And this policy aims to be holistic in nature and covers not only public governance, but also the corporate sector. So everyone ranging from individuals and the government and corporation has a role to play in this policy, which is what Sir coined as CBDR, common but differentiated responsibilities. Moreover, the new strategy has an actionable roadmap, so we will be able to implement it better this time. The one important thing that both of you agreed on was that information is a national asset, and across the globe, most countries have consolidated their resources to create a sort of an apex body, which is responsible for national cybersecurity. And India is working on something similar. So while we might be delayed, like Sir said, what we come out with will be a very well thought out solution that is tailor made and implementable in India. So looking forward to that, and thank you for a great talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Vaibhavi. Thank you, Khushbu. All the best. Stay safe.